Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. We're giving everyone a few moments to join from the waiting room. And if we can go to the next slide, I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar. This is a webinar series that we started a few years ago, and this is meant to provide updates on the platform trial. This is Sabrina Paganoni. I'm speaking from the HEALEY AMG Center. The platform trial is a large community collaboration with so many different stakeholders and partners, both from the patient community, academia, and industry. If we can go to the next slide. As you know, for many of you have been following us for a number of years now, and the goal of the project when we started in 2020 has always been the idea of running an efficient trial so that we could get more drugs tested in a faster time frame. And we can do so because we have a common protocol and shared infrastructure. So we have this house with strong foundations that host different regimens, where every regimen is a different drug. And we can continue to use the same house or same infrastructure to test more drugs. We continue to add drugs so that we can test them and make the most efficient use of resources by having some shared resources, so that we have gainings across the board in terms of costs, infrastructure, time, speed, and most importantly, by sharing a common placebo group or placebo data shared across regimens, we can actually reduce dramatically the number of people who are allocated to placebo, which is something that we know is important for everyone involved. So we started in 2020, we continue to grow. Right now in 2024, we're testing 2 drugs. Here I'll call them regimen F and G, where again each regimen, each letter denotes a different drug, and I want to thank the over 1,300 participants who have been participating in the trial so far. And because of this shared infrastructure, actually, even the people who started in 2020 are still contributing data to the infrastructure by if they were part of the shared placebo. So what's really amazing here is that everyone's participation gets sort of amplified and continues over time by providing, again, shared placebo and a lot of learnings for the field. Next slide. So while we have different drugs, again, we have this common protocol, and that means that each regimen is essentially tested, or each drug is tested in the same way. And the goal of each regimen is to provide a go, no-go decision so that we can screen drugs as fast as possible and decide which ones will move to phase 3 testing and which ones do not need to do so. In addition, we have a lot of scientific goals. So I want to emphasize that in addition to testing drugs, we're also collecting a number of exploratory endpoints, like biomarkers, that we know are so important for the field. And so in addition to learning about specific drugs, and we've done that over time, we're also learning a lot about biomarkers or other common features that we are sort of observing thanks to this common infrastructure and sharing with the field. So we're working on a number of publications about all of this. Next slide. So right now, the trial is not enrolling new participants. I do want to say that the trial is very much active because we are testing, the 2 drugs that are currently active in the trial, and also making a lot of learnings. We're making a lot of analysis from biomarkers and data from previous participants as well. So if you've been a participant in a previous trial, in a previous regimen, please know that your data is still contributing to current testing of these new drugs. And also we're doing a lot of analysis to try to learn about the field. I do want to say that we get a lot of requests from people living with ALS, and they want to know what other options they have for participating in research. And so today's webinar, we want to share some of the opportunities that are coming up, even outside of this trial. I would really like to recommend all the links that are on the slide, which provide very helpful resources for navigating clinical trial opportunities. As you know, I'm here with Catherine, who's our patient navigator, who's also available to answer questions and emails. But contrary to 2020, when we started, when there wasn't as much information out there, right now we have a number of tools that are available for you to go in and customize your own search. So for example, if you look at the new ALS TDI trial navigator, and the link is on the slide, you can go in, and thank you, Catherine, for posting the link in the chat. You can go in and navigate and find out clinical research, not only trials, but also expanded access options near you. So I think it's a very user-friendly tool. And the other tools on this slide are also very helpful. And so you can, browse them to find other trial opportunities. Next slide. We have also partnered with different companies or different, foundations and groups. And so we are very pleased to share some of their materials, which I think are very, very good. And in particular, I want to give a shout out to the Les Turner Foundation that developed some tools that are really great in terms of guiding the search for participation in clinical research. That are available both in Spanish and English. And so by using the QR codes or the links on the slide, you can find out more about what participation in clinical research entails and how to get started. So that's another new tool that's been developed by others, but we really wanted to share it with you because it's very helpful if you have additional questions. Next slide. So we also published some recent articles. So that's an article that an interview that we gave to some journalists that were writing about the latest on ALS research and clinical trials. So feel free to browse that publication as well. And then next. And I want to share that we now have registration links available for a few conferences that are coming up in the fall. If you have followed this field for the last 4 years, you have seen how there's much more information now, and we're so glad that there's more participation in scientific conferences and meetings. And in particular, I want to highlight that the 2024 annual NEALS meeting, which will happen in October, is available for virtual participation, and anyone living with ALS can participate. There is a link to register and attend virtually. So please feel free to use the link in the chat or on the slide or the QR code. And that's, that was just kind of opened recently, and we're very excited that a lot of the content is easily accessible to everyone living with ALS. Next slide. Another great opportunity that's available through NEALS is the ALS Clinical Research Learning Institute. That's a fantastic program that's led by a few colleagues. Many people, hundreds of people have participated, and there is an application process. So there will be a training. That's a program for people living with ALS or families or caregivers. If you're interested in learning more, attending an actual workshop with education and training on research, including some detailed training on the process itself, there is the opportunity to apply and be considered, and that's really been a great way for people who want to be very active in advocacy as research ambassadors. And many of the research ambassadors have gone on to participate in committees that help design trials or participate in patient advisory boards for companies. So really being front and center and an active player in the drug development process or other research opportunities. I will say this particular link will bring you to the application for the program that's going to be run in Florida in person in October. I do want to mention that there's a number of other programs that have been become available both in person and virtually throughout the year. So this is not the only time that the training is going to be offered. But again, if you are interested, you can learn more about this additional opportunity. Next slide. And another fantastic symposium that's available and open freely to people living with ALS is the ALS1 Annual Research Symposium. And that's also virtual, and it brings together hundreds of people. The outreach is fantastic with some of the best experts in ALS research and a lot of companies. I think this is one of my favorite meetings. Well, first of all, ALS1 is a fantastic organization that provides lots of support to patients and research. And this particular meeting is, I think, one of the highlights really of the year in terms of scientific conferences, and this is freely open. It's 3 days of sharing all the latest in research news, and really with a lot of exciting news always every year. I would want to mention that some of the recordings and the clips, the video clips from last year are available on social media and on the website. There was a fantastic symposium within this symposium on gene therapies and sort of treatments and interventions that have an impact for people living with a genetically based ALS. That was last year, and the recordings are available. Again, check out the social media page, and it's really fantastic content. And this year we're going to have more of that. Also, there is a part of the program is focused on assistive technology and digital tools. So what's on the cutting edge about ALS? And both this symposium, the ALS one, and the previous one I mentioned, the NILS workshop, will have a lot about the cutting edge in terms of biomarkers, artificial intelligence, assistive technology, really the whole range of ALS research. So these are other opportunities for learning more about all of this. Next slide. And then we have, this is the recent summary that, short course for, like, if you want kind of a very short update on diagnosis or the treatment and what's available right now in ALS clinics. That's another nice link for you to learn more. Next slide. And last but not least, we are very excited that the NILS organization is now offering a number of additional webinars. NILS has always been, sharing a lot of webinars, and they're all recorded on the NILS website. But right now, I just want to give you the heads up that there's going to be an upcoming series on respiratory management and science, mini science symposiums, like really all available for free as webinars. And so we'll provide more updates on the actual schedule. Many of these will start in the fall, and we will be sharing all the information. And the link here is particularly for the Access for All in ALS, or All ALS webinar that was recently hosted by NILS. For those of you who may be interested, the study is literally about to start. So if you want to participate in All ALS, don't miss the recording of this webinar, and more information should be available at many sites and many clinics soon. Next slide. And this is our last slide. Again, a reminder that we're always available even outside of this webinar series. So feel free to register for upcoming webinars, and also feel free to sign up for the ALS link, which is our newsletter on ALS research. As a reminder, the second Thursday of every month, we spend time specifically speaking about expanded access protocols and the ones that are, connected also to the platform trial. We have a webinar scheduled in a couple of weeks on this, as well in August. So every month, the series repeats, and there will be content on expanded access. We have heard from a lot of you that you're interested in finding more information, and that's why today we presented sort of like this kind of review and overview of all the great tools that are available to learn more and see which site, also how to connect with sites, which sites are available, etc. And so using the links that I shared earlier, you can find out if your site is participating either in trials or expanded access. And I want to emphasize that the first place to start is always by talking with your physician, your ALS clinic specialist, because they'll be able to tell you directly if they're participating in a trial or EAP. So with that, I think, we took 15 minutes because there's so much new material and so many new conferences, and they're now, many of them are now available for free through Zoom or other virtual platforms. So certainly a revolution since we started this webinar series. We were one of the few offering webinars, but now there's so many scientific conferences that we want to make sure that everyone knows about them. And I see Dr. Cudkowicz is joined, so thank you so much for joining. And yeah. So I see here that there's a question. And so there's a good question. Well, we spoke a little bit about artificial intelligence, or we mentioned that earlier. So the question is, with artificial intelligence or AI, will there be a point in the near future where placebo groups from different trials will be able to be analyzed and utilized as a standard placebo group. So we don't, hopefully we'll be able to eliminate the need for placebo groups in every trial. I mean, that's a great question. Dr. Cudkowicz, do you want to start or?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I hope so. I mean, I think that there are ways, people are doing this now in other disorders where they have large data sets, something like digital twin studies. And I think it's coming to ALS. It'll have to be piloted to see how good it is. And obviously discussions with the FDA about accepting it. But I do see it coming to ALS, particularly in the early phase trials. So yeah, lots of good innovation there.
And I know that at the upcoming NEALS Symposium, the one that I mentioned earlier, that's accessible to everyone, there will be a section dedicated to AI and how that can improve ALS research. So very timely question. So we received a question via email. Thank you, Catherine, for sharing questions that you received throughout the week. Question is, there's been a recent diagnosis, no therapy has been initiated. And so the question is, what's the next step? Are there potential enrollment opportunities for somebody who was just diagnosed?
Yeah, there are a few trials going on right now. And I think it depends a little bit where this person lives, but I think one option would be for either themselves or their neurologist to contact Catherine Small here or Judy Carey or Niels to find out what trials are available close to them. And most likely, if they're early in the illness, they'll be eligible for any of the open trials right now.
Yeah, great. So there's a follow-up question on AI. Is AI speeding up a cure?
I think it will. I mean, there's now lots of groups interested in bringing AI to ALS, and that includes Target ALS, ALS Association, ALS TDI, Vision 2030, ourselves. So these groups are starting to get together about how can you use AI technology to help with ALS, and there's many ways, and it's all centered on having a lot of data and a lot of data that's accessible. So one example is there's a lot of genomic data. So that's like DNA sequencing from thousands of people with ALS who've donated their DNA. And there's also related to that clinical data and other type of what we call omics data, like all the proteins or metabolites in your blood or your skin cells. So there's initiatives to try to use AI to comb through that vast amount of data to see if you could pick up subtypes of people based on biology and targeted treatments better. So that's one way. And then I know one of our scientists, Mark Alpers, is using AI to also comb kind of scientific data and literature to see if you can identify drug targets better. They've done that in other disorders and trying to bring that to ALS. So I do think it will speed up the cure, but you have to define what it is. We have to keep getting lots of data and making sure it's open source so that people can mine it to speed up the cure.
Great, and I see that Catherine is putting a lot of links in the chat. So if you're interested in looking at any of the other resources that I shared during the webinar, please take a look at the chat. I see another question that came in. Any advice for people who would like to enroll in the platform trial for future regimens?
Thank you for that. Advice would be to keep coming to this, keep it connected with Catherine. As soon as we open up new regimens, which are different drug arms, we'll get the news out through this as well as many other groups. Thank you for your interest.
Great. I think we have taken all the questions so far. I don't know, Dr. Cudkowicz, if you have anything else to share.
Well, first of all, I just want to wish everybody a good holiday weekend. Hopefully people will be with their families. I think, we went from a time, I'd say, in ALS where we had a lot of trials to a time where we have not as many, but a lot more are coming. There's a lot of companies and a lot of academic groups who are getting ready to launch some more trials later on this summer and the fall. So I'm excited about many of those.
Yeah, and to the point, we just got a question about a different study. It's discussed as many trials that are upcoming. And so the question is, what is the Spinogenics trial and what's the goal of that trial?
Yeah, that's it's a drug that works on what I would call it's like the repair pathway. So it helps make new connections between your neurons. So something called synapses. And it's now in phase 1 testing, which is the first time it goes into people and looking at dose and markers of what we call target engagement. Is it doing what it's supposed to do? So it started in Australia, and hopefully it'll be coming to the United States as well. But it's a very early phase trial.
Right. There's a question that we have been getting a lot recently. Can somebody based in a different country participate in the trials? For example, the person is specifically asking about India. Is there anything in India, or could somebody from India participate in a trial in the US?
Yeah, there's no rule that would prevent that. I think it is complicated though, because people would have to move to the country where the trial is for, the period of time of the trial. I mean, for some trials, you might be able to go back and forth, but it's anyway, but there's no restriction other than really logistics, at least for the United States and I think Canada too. In Europe, there are some country rules around that.
Yeah. So if you are participating in a trial, can you also participate in a different trial? I guess there's a question if there are restrictions in terms of doing trials at the same time or after one another.
Yeah, typically you can't be in more than one trial at the same time because then it would be difficult, if not impossible, to tell if either one worked. So that is usually in a trial that they ask people not to be in another trial during that trial.
Yeah, and actually somewhat similar but separate question now tofersen has been approved. So if somebody is taking tofersen for the treatment of ALS, can they participate in a trial? And specifically the question is about the Spinogenics trial, but I guess it's also a general question.
I think it's going to be trial by trial specific. I mean, there's again no rule that someone couldn't be on it, but if there is some reason why the drugs might interact or have a negative effect, that might be exclusionary. I don't actually know for Spinogenics if tofersen is exclusionary or not. But probably that information is known, and if we find it out, we can post it next week or next time we meet.
Excellent. Great, always great to see the questions. And yeah, next week we will not be here because of July the 4th holiday, but then we will be back the following week. And again, because that will be the second week of the month, it will be on expanded access. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
Bye-bye.